Someone said the world today has so many problems that if Moses would come down Mount Sinai, the 2 tablets he carried would be of aspirin. The suicide of young, talented, successful Bollywood actor Sushant Singh has troubled many young people greatly. It has raised many questions, and there is great searching of heart all around. Albert Camus, the French philosopher and Nobel laureate, wrote one of the most famous opening lines in literature, and it goes like this: "There is but one truly serious philosophical problem, and that is suicide. Judging whether life is or is not worth living amounts to answering the fundamental question of philosophy." It is an uncomfortable truth, but a chilling fact, that more people die every year of suicide than homicide or murder. And this has been true for centuries. According to many statistics, the 2 major reasons for death between the age group of 15 and 44, firstly is accident and secondly is suicide. Beneath all these impersonal statements and statistics lie terrible human tragedies of those who died and of those who are left behind to live with their hunting void. When we talk about suicide, we often think about the pathos and the pain of the victim. Even people who did not know the person or did not like the person pour out such love and appreciation which they never did when the person was alive. But I want to ask, what about those who are left behind? I'm not just talking about the family members who have to live their remaining life with guilt, but humanity itself. I do not blame those who are lost. I feel sorry for them. But social sciences demonstrate suicide causes more suicide both among those who knew the person and among strangers who somehow identified with the victim. Therefore, staying alive has an opposite influence. It helps keep people alive. By choosing to stay alive, we are contributing something precious to the world. But for many of us, becoming someone or achieving something is more important than staying alive. We continue to perpetuate the myth that, which sounds so wonderful and is well intended but can be deeply painful. It is, you can be anything you want to be. So we set our expectations very high. We expect too much from ourselves. We expect too much from others. We expect too much from life. We dream that our names would be famous, that our work would be recognized, that our marriages would be perfect, that our children would be exemplary. It is as if life has given us some desperate illness to rise above the crowd and exist individually. And when the expectation is not met, we crumble. I know of a talented, successful young man who committed suicide because his marriage failed. My dear friends, young people, I plead with you, lower your expectation. Have dreams, have ambition, but watch out your expectations. Otherwise, the same thing which helped humanity to survive and progress will become the same behavior and attitude which will destroy and damage humanity. Viktor Frankl was one of those trapped in Hitler's prison. It was one of the worst suffering mankind has seen. He lost his parents, his wife, his brother in the concentration camp. His story in Man's Search for Meaning is incredible. How could he survive in a place of such misery where they were dehumanized every day? To survive and to keep sanity, there needed to be a fundamental change in their attitude towards life. Frankl writes, we had to learn ourselves, and further, we had to teach despairing men. It did not really matter what we expected from life, but what life expected from us. Our society is obsessed with success. Success and failures are byproducts but what is infinitely important are struggles, and to struggle in the right way. Otherwise, we will see Jesus and his disciples as failures, the soldiers who lay down their lives at the border protecting the nation as failures, the medical professionals who get infected and even die serving the other infected as failures. Success stories, no matter how important, they can only encourage you. It is the stories of struggle that empower you. What kind of stories are we feeding ourselves? Every person goes through struggle, and everyone suffers uniquely. To live through this painful feeling is hard work and requires courage. One of the things that builds this kind of courage comes from recognizing that we are not alone. Everybody has thought about suicide at some point or the other. Everybody. If we can grasp that, if we can grasp the commonality that we are not alone, then pain can become easier to bear. Many times what we need is a person who gives an alternative perspective to our life. I know of a student who committed suicide because of the downward spiral of psyche. It stemmed from a feeling that he had no choice. And when we think we are unable to make choice, we feel imprisoned in ourselves. Suicidal people have tunnel vision. They think that no choice is possible. A counselor's job is to put doors and windows in the tunnel, and this is where our friends and family play a decisive role. I vividly remember reading the letter of a young girl who thought she had exhausted all choices. She was thanking my team for saving her from suicide by broadening her perspective and thereby showing the choices that were available. Let me quickly draw your attention to a book of recent times entitled Stay, A History of Suicide and Philosophies Against It by Jennifer Heshett. After two of her close friends committed suicide in close succession, she was left devastated. So she immersed herself in history, in science and philosophy of suicide, searching for answers. And this is one of the conclusions she reached to, that outside the idea that God forbids it, our society today has no coherent argument against suicide. She is not a preacher, but an intellectual historian by profession. The Bible forbids suicide because life as given by God is sacred. It is true, we feel anxious when we have no control. But to choose to end one's life as some sort of release, thinking that the dead no more bleed, is an intellectual and a moral mistake, not only because the victim and the killer becomes the one and the same and robs their future, but also this personal act harms the community and damages humanity. Let me bring my talk to close by pointing the three reasons why we should not choose suicide, as I mentioned before. Firstly, do not choose suicide because your life is sacred, therefore God forbids it. Secondly, do not choose suicide because you owe it to humanity, you owe it to the society to be alive. Suicide causes irreparable damage to your family and to humanity. Thirdly, do not choose suicide because you owe it to your future. Your life matters, my friend. Therefore, shall we watch our expectations? Watch out your expectation from yourself, from your friends, and from life itself. Not just stories of success. It is important that we learn stories of struggle, because it is the stories of struggle that empower us. And let us recognize it is a beautiful thing to ask help from our family and friends and counselors to broaden our perspectives and know of the choices that we have. We are humanity. Humanity needs us because we are it. My friend, your life matters. Thank you.